This is ESBR Boxing. Delighted to be joined as always by my friend, my colleague, my preview cohort, Elliot Grigg. Elliot, thanks for joining me, mate. We are talking about the fight. We'll call it a fight this weekend. Friday night action. We're in Orlando, Florida, as the problem child. Jake Paul is back in action, and he fights Andre August. This is Paul's first fight since we saw him against Nate Diaz back in August. So yeah, third fight of the year. Sorry, following his defeat to Tommy Fury, and then his win over Nate Diaz. Andre August is he's a pro boxer, so to speak. He's 10-1-1, five KOs in his 10 victories. Fought and won earlier this year, but before that hadn't fought since November 2019. So make of that what you will. But 8 rounds of cruiserweight, and I mentioned there, Elliot. I mentioned the name Tommy Fury, and although this video is kind of a preview to the fight against Andre August on Friday night, first question I actually want to ask you is about Tommy Fury. I want to say, Jake Paul wins on Friday night, sorry, a rematch with Tommy Fury in early to mid 2024. How does it go? Would he avenge his loss to Tommy Fury, or would he get beat again?
Yeah, thank you very much for that eloquent introduction. I was looking wistfully into this session. I think I might answer that question. I think it's a really tough one for me because I feel like those two have got styles actually that gel really nicely together. And if you think, like, obviously Jake Paul had Tommy Fury down, didn't he? He had lost a close split decision to Tommy Fury, which in some ways, which is very, very credible in a good performance. Granted, he was saying not his best performance, but still a credible fight and a good performance. I feel like there's a chance maybe if he improves, like slightly to he could beat Tommy Fury. But equally, I feel like Tommy Fury's just got maybe just a bit more on him at the moment still. Like even though like Tommy Fury seems to be just fighting these like kind of misfits YouTube guys now as a pro is his pro kind of career. I feel like Tommy Fury is also a very, very limited fighter. So in a way, these two are kind of very evenly matched. And I think if Jake Paul has sort of gone away and has really sort of worked, and even if he improves sort of 5%, 5 to 10%, he could beat Tommy Fury. Yeah, I do genuinely think he could beat Tommy Fury. Whether that fight happen or not, I don't know. But I do genuinely give him a very solid chance. I think it's more of a 50-50 fight than people make out, actually.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, mate. Make no bones about it. I was very much of the opinion that although Tommy Fury, I don't consider him. He's obviously not an elite boxer by any stretch. A lot of people saying would he ever even be able to win a British title? Probably not. Um, but at the same time, he's been boxing his whole life and has kind of come from that family, come from that background. And I thought he would have annihilated Jake Paul in the first fight. Yes, he won, and I think he did win well enough in the end, despite the knockdown. Um, but I'm potentially think I agree with what you said about it being a 50-50, just based on Tommy Fury's last fight. You mentioned there the Misfits one. He obviously fought KSI, and like to use Conor to use Conor McGregor's quote, KSI couldn't box eggs if he worked in an egg boxing factory, right? Yet Tommy Fury was lucky to get the decision against KSI. Um, so do I think that potentially maybe just took the eye off the ball, didn't think KSI could beat him, maybe. But Jake Paul, I would say is better than KSI. So it's an interesting one for me, mate. I think a rematch, although boxing fans like you and I do not really, let's be honest, don't really care about this stuff. Um, it's massive appeal. A Jake Paul Tommy Fury rematch in 2024 was massive numbers on pay-per-view. Bigger numbers than a lot of good world class unifications, world title boxing clashes do, which is sad to see. But it's a sign of the times as well. Um, One of the other names I mentioned there, mate, was KSI. Obviously, Tommy Fury beat him last time out. Very contentious. A lot of people actually had KSI winning that. If Jake Paul is to come through this fight against Andre August and doesn't fight Tommy Fury first next year, but potentially fights KSI, again early to mid 2024. How do you see that one playing out?
You know what, mate? I think I've spoken with before about KSI, this sort of carousel of potential fights that's been happening. And even though that, like you said, it was a close fight and one that many people thought he won actually last time out, KSI versus Tommy Fury. I also think KSI is terrible, terrible fighter. Frankly, in some ways, I do feel like Jake Paul is significantly better than him. I've seen there's been obviously a bit of back and forth, isn't there, on Twitter about making it a 50 million purse winner takes all sort of thing. And I actually think Jake Paul would beat KSI actually quite handsomely. I think he might even stop him, frankly. I think if you look at the guys that they've both fought as well, um, Jake Paul, for all the criticism he does get, takes it quite seriously. Appears to be taking it very seriously, like the opponents he's had, the management he's had. KSI for me less so, but just as because he's obviously got a backing and a name. So I feel, I actually feel Jake Paul would beat him handsomely.
Yeah, interesting, mate. I agree with you. I think Jake Paul wins out as well. But and what you said there, do you know what? Again, no interest in either of these fights, to be honest. But you do have to take your hat off to Jake Paul. He looks like he lives the life. Some more so than actual some pro boxers would do. He seems to constantly be in the gym working. And let's be honest, whether you're interested in him or not, whether you rate him or not, he has improved massively from the very beginning. So, his hard work has clearly paid off. And likewise, KSI, like you look at KSI and, the shape he's got himself into recently, he seems to be taking it more seriously as well of late. So fair play to them. They're both very dedicated to it. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I think Jake Paul, I think he's just a bigger man as well against I think KSI, you know, is
Hmm.
almost kind of like a skinnier version. Like he's not as solid. I feel like if Jake Paul landed clean on KSI, he would be able to knock him over. Just finally, before we finish up, mate, we've obviously mentioned Tommy Fury and KSI, but first of all, Jake Paul has to get through Andre August on Friday night. I keep on saying Saturday, Friday night in Orlando. 8 round cruiserweight contest, as I mentioned. Before I'm going to ask you a prediction, but I'm not trying to sway your prediction at all. But just a few points to worth noting is the fact that Andre August, yeah, he's only one defeat, but his defeat was a knockout defeat to a fighter who had a 3-3 record and yeah, that was at light heavyweight. So can he take a shot from a cruiserweight? But I'm not putting words in your mouth, but that was 5 years ago and back in 2018. But how do you see Paul versus August going on Friday night in Florida?
Boys, it's tough. This is actually a tough one to predict. I feel like mostly because I don't know much about Andre August, but equally, no. I mean, you look at obviously the fight record he's had. I look at it in different ways. I look at it almost like outside of the ring factors and the amount of money that Jake Paul brings to something. I'd be very surprised if. I mean, I think August would have to knock him out to obviously prevail in this fight. I think if it goes to the cards, they'll give it to Jake Paul, frankly. But then equally, I look at it and I go, Andre August, last time out he fought a guy with a 7-0 record, won a UD, won the what was it, the Texas. As I was looking at BoxRec, hashtag the BoxRec boys, Texas Combative at sports program, Texas like heavyweight title, with against a guy with a 4-3 record as well. But I also look at it and go, Andre August has never actually been in an 8 round fight before, whereas Jake Paul has been in a 10 round, obviously with Nate Diaz. So Jake Paul actually might be carrying the better conditioning into this fight, or more used to going that sort of distance. So for me, it's an appealing one. I you've thrown that curveball in there with the stoppage from the light heavyweight stoppage there. I mean, for me, I was before this fight was well, before it was announced, but when it was initially announced, I was thinking probably Jake Paul on points. And to be honest with you, I'm probably still leaning towards that way, although you have thrown a curveball in there with the stoppage. So I'm going to throw it back to you and say, Paul, do you think Jake Paul will stop Andre August? Do you think Andre August will win? How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, mate, I think that it's telling that Andre August hadn't fought since November 2019, and then he came back and fought that one fight. I'm not sure, was it on the Jake Paul Nate Diaz undercard? Don't quote me on that, but I think it was around the same time anyway. And as you say, he's never fought more than a 6 rounder. The fact that he got knocked out by a 3-3 fighter at light heavyweight is alarm bells to me. So yeah, I'm actually going to back Jake Paul to win via stoppage. I know he didn't stop Nate Diaz, and obviously before that, the Tommy Fury fight went the distance as well. Well, I'm gonna get back him to get back on the knockout train here. I think Jake Paul will stop Andre August because I think he's very limited opposition and has been handpicked. To be honest with you, for Jake Paul to look good, to potentially set up one of those fights that we were mentioning against Tommy Fury or KSI in 2024. That's all we've got time for, mate. Thanks very much for joining me as always. Guys, let us know your thoughts on how this fight goes on Friday night. Jake Paul, a huge favourite, obviously. Could he, could his career be all but over come Saturday morning? Could Andre August defeat the problem child? Let us know your thoughts. Is it a routine victory for Jake Paul? Points, knockout, and obviously, how would he fare in a rematch with Tommy Fury and against obviously his bitter rival, KSI as well? Guys, thanks very much for watching. Elliot, thanks very much for joining me. Enjoyed that one, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Paul, and as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.